It's not only Friday, it's a squintacular Friday. It's super bright outside. Colorado, sometimes if you get everything just right, the light here is just kind of ridiculous.
Yes.
And so it's bright out. So if you see me squinting, that's why. Yeep. But it's a beautiful day.
Yep.
Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous late May day. Some of the best times to be in Colorado.
Things are green.
Things are green. The air is sweet. Everything smells like flowers. Most of the time, Colorado smells like, I don't know, dust.
And Greeley when you're here.
And Greeley if the wind is just carrying just the right way.
Yes.
They call it, because Greeley is home to an untold number of gigantic feedlots, and so it smells funky if you're downwind. But they say it's the smell of money.
Yeah.
Yep.
In the episode of South Park with Greeley. It's so funny.
It is so funny because we're from here. They show Fort Collins in that episode, complete with our one tall building.
No, it was not that episode.
It was
it's the one when Cartman goes to foster care.
Right, no, I remember that, but that's a different episode?
Yeah, the one with Fort Collins, and it was with the member berries, and everybody lost the internet and went crazy.
Anyway, but they show Fort Collins in that thing, and we just had to laugh because it's in that episode there it is. There's our one tall building from Fort Collins, Colorado.
No, there are two tall buildings.
Do we have two tall buildings
now? The Key Bank and the First National.
I forgot about the Key Bank. I don't know why it is, but we've just never grown up. There are worse things.
I suppose.
I suppose. Anyway, happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Oh, do you want to do wrist check?
Yeah, sure.
Wrist check. And there it is. 6105 8000. This is a birth year and month watch for me. It's June 1968. It's got a nice, slightly ghosted blue Daini bezel. It's a nice watch. I like that one. And here. 6105 8000. This one is from 1970, I believe. And it has a service sweep from a 6309. And that's how it came to me, and that's how I've left it. If I found a correct condition long sweep, I'd consider it. I'd consider putting it in, but that's a service handset. And so I consider that to be valid. Just what beautiful watches. What beautiful geometry. This dial and handset was made for this model. This is what it was designed for. It's why they're so beautifully balanced. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous watch. Gorgeous. As I'm sure I said in that wrist check segment, it was completely unplanned. Mm-hmm. That we both happened to, be wearing these slim case 6105s. But I don't know, they're just such a joy to me. I love the simplicity of the geometry of them. This handset and dial was designed for this case. Obviously the 6105, 8110, they came second, and they're beautiful and amazing. But this dial and handset was made for this case. This is a thing.
A thing.
It is 100% a thing.
So wait, what years did they come out?
They first started being seen in, I believe, the earliest was March 1968, and they were made into the very beginning of 1970. How late were they made into 1970? Maybe as late as June. I'm not 100% sure on that. If somebody has a more definitive answer, please let me know. And another question, because maybe there's new data. The transitional 6105, 8110s. So these are going to be the 8110s that say resist, but they have the long sweep. It's what I call them. They're the transitionals between the proofs, which were 1970, and then you get into resist, like case back date 1213, so February, March 71. That they only went for, I think those transitionals only went for, I'm not sure how long. Tell me how long. Do you think they went as long as January 1972? Because I don't know, but I'd like to know.
Okay. Am I doing questions now?
Might as well.
Road Gent 7921. This is from last mail call.
Okay.
Spencer, after being inspired by your servicing videos.
That's either good news or bad news. So if I have to apologize in advance, I'm terribly sorry.
I decided to have a go at swapping the quartz crystal modules between two VH31 watches, one being a nice watch with 10, what is that? Seconds per, what?
Wait, what?
SPMs, what's that?
Seconds per minute.
Oh.
Seconds per month? Oh, 10 seconds per month.
Oh,
I
okay.
bet you. I was like, seconds per minute? That's not very accurate.
And other being a really cheap oddball with 0.5 SPM. You can see the logic of the swap, hopefully. However, it ended in disaster, and both movements are now in 1,000 bits in plastic bags. How did you overcome such early problems? Any advice? Keep doing it.
You got to keep doing it. You just do it and do it and do it and do it until you know, until you understand the basics. You once you get to the point of being able to learn what you can ignore, that's a big thing. And you can learn what to ignore by you learn how movements go together generally. You learn that well enough that part you kind of don't have to really re-examine. I don't know. I'm kind of confused. Are you saying that you moved the crystal modules themselves off of their circuits and attempted to swap them? So you were doing microcircuitry soldering, or you just were getting into the watches and you ended up taking the movements apart? I don't know. One of the first things I did when I started out is when I was playing with movements and what worked best was using watches that were dead, just dead.
And you didn't use quartz watches in the beginning at all.
No, well, I was only interested in mechanical at the time. I hadn't really thought about quartz at all because when I started, I didn't, I wasn't really aware of like what a high quality quartz was, or the fact that just because some quartz movements are made of plastic, that other quartz movements aren't made of, jeweling and bearings and, metal and all kinds of stuff. I didn't understand, the true depth of, the lore of quartz timekeeping. The lore, man. There's some serious lore when you get into quartz timekeeping, and the high end stuff is like, this watch was nearly beaten off my wrist by my Grand Quartz. So, a 9400 series Grand Quartz, high accuracy quartz, it nearly knocked a 6105 off my wrist. I've now taken 3 different turnings in my story, and I need to return to what the person actually asked.
How did you overcome sucking?
Right. I worked on dead movements, and then once I got to the point of being able to, the very minute I was able to put a balance back in, and because I only worked with broken movements, they were already dead when I got them, so I couldn't do anything more to them. But that one time, and I will remember it, and I remember it right now, and I dropped on the balance of that watch, which was a blue dial, poor man's 62 MES 7580-52, the blue dial, not the black, blue's rare. But I dropped it in, which I didn't know at the time. I dropped the balance in, and it started swinging back and forth, and I was like, I couldn't believe I'd done it. I couldn't believe, because that movement actually previously had not been running. And so I not only was able to put it back together successfully, I improved it, which was really something.
Was that at the old house?
Mm-hmm. I was at the old house. And but once I got the basics down, I was really, really determined to figure out how to do a 6139 chronograph. That was my thing. But it doesn't have to be that movement. It can be any movement. But I got a number of them because, some of the old guys on the forums, were very supportive of me. And I wouldn't be here. In a lot of ways, without the help of some of the old guys on the forums. Aaron Shapiro, for one, it is a great example, and he still supports me to this day. Saul Brook, another person, has helped me. They've always been with me. So, which I greatly appreciate. So, but because of them, I was able to get access to material that at the time we couldn't even think about affording or buying. But once I got that material, I just rebuilt them again and again and again and again and again, over and over and over and over. I was pushing for doing a full rebuild every single day.
Yep.
If I could do it, and because I was hyper focused on it, thanks to some of my unique abilities, and eventually it got to the point that I could predict more or less what was going to happen when I was going through a servicing, because you get so familiar with the basic internals of the watch, you again can start ignoring what you don't have to pay any attention to, which means the things that are aberrations stick out, and you start seeing those things because you know that it doesn't look right. That's how I work anyway, and it just takes time and dedication, man. You gotta get after it, and you have to enjoy it. I don't think you can force yourself to do it if you don't enjoy it.
And like Dave Grohl said, you have to suck a lot before
Yeah.
you get good.
Yep, just-
That was not the literal quote.
Yeah, no, he said you just got to get into that garage and just suck. Talking about young musicians, trying to come up.
Tiago Silva TX9HZ. Hi Spencer, regarding the Italian tunas, I have one of these, black and yellow variation, and I love it, but I noticed that it's running slow a few seconds a day. Could these be regulated? I don't see the normal plus minus for regulation.
No, those are one-shot movements. And remember, Seiko, those again, they're amazing quartz movements through the 70s and even into the 80s. They would put variable trimmers on even lower end movements, like a 7123, which is actually a quite good movement. It's 2 joules, all metal, and it has a variable trimmer. And they did those because the watches were assumed to be maintained. That was the whole idea. But then a good illustration though of their changes when they went from the 7549 family, 7549, 7548, 7546, 7545, and then the Pulsar Y514. That's the entire range of that movement family. All of them, top to bottom, had that variable trimmer. When Seiko in the late 80s went to the next iteration, which was the 7C family, still alive today. They're making that movement.
They do?
Oh yeah, absolutely. All the modern tunas are the 7Cs, all of them. Those you can adjust, but they have just 2 wires. They're circuits, shortcuts in the circuits, and if you cut them, one, I think, increases half a second, or one decreases or something, but it's one shot, one kill. You do it, that's it. And every other movement, they just pound them together and send them out, because most watches these days, I'm sure they consider to be disposable. Why not buy a new one?
Salty Crabs, I need a Casa Bonita hoodie in my life.
She's repping right now.
I'm wearing mine.
Yeah. Casa Bonita. Yep, the very one. The very one. Yeah, we have a guy who delivers our dog food to us, and I talk to him all the time. His name is also Sebastian, by the way.
With the bald guy?
Yeah.
Oh.
Anyway, yeah, but he came and I was wearing my pink Casa Bonita hoodie, and he was like, Casa Bonita. And he was like, how is it, man? And I was like, well, he's from up in the mountains, but we were talking, and it's great to have a shared experience. I mean, I've talked with him. He has an Aztec, so I always talk to him about his Pontiac Aztec. But he was like, Casa Bonita. And I was like, yeah, man. And he was like, how is it? And I was like, well, you remember what it was like when we were kids? And he was like, oh, I remember. And I said, well, it's just like that, except it's clean. And the food is surprisingly decent. And, it's one of those things, you've got that shared experience.
Yep. For CE Seiko 6217 8001, June 1966.
This is the video of that restoration.
Which watch is it?
62 MAS.
Okay, that's what I know them as.
Wake up.
I know, I didn't sleep well. I'm super sleepy. Uh-oh, sorry, yawns are contagious.
It's true.
Panama Brad. Wow, very nice. That is my birth year and month. I still have my Turtle 6309 I bought at Eglin?
Oh, okay. Eglin Air Force Base?
PX when I was in the Army. When I was stationed in Panama in 86, 88 and thought in Central America, 62 MAS is on my radar. Currently have the MM200 SPB079.
Well, thanks for watching. Never mind, thanks for sharing. I'm glad that you watched the video. It's great, actually. I always love hearing from veterans, especially when they bought their watches during their service and at their PXs. I just think I love objects that have interesting stories, and those kinds of stories are interesting to me. Watches have these histories, and a lot of times they get lost. So you had your 6309. Did you buy that when you were already through boot, or had you Did you get it first thing, and it made it through everything, and you still have it? Anyway, tell me more about it. I'd like to see a picture. Send me a picture. Put a picture down below.
Okay, I don't know if this is a bunch of letters together or if it's Dr. Tixon, but I'm gonna stick with that one.
Dr. Tixon?
Yes.
Good morning, doctor.
Considering the age, you can't beat those numbers on how well it is running. Just beautiful.
Well, I'm not patting myself in the back for this. The servicing went well. But it's those movements, they're great movements. The 6200 movements, they're just fantastic. Sometimes people get hung up on their beat rate. So 18,000 BPH, which is this stately, it's sort of the standard timekeeping. Watches before, like the 60s, really, that was the speed that they beat in for the most part. Sometimes they went faster, some chronographs and stuff, but it's a stately speed, and they've got these huge balances, and so they kick back and forth. It's not like looking at the balance of a high beat, which is like, they're tiny and they go, it's like a little dog. And it increases my anxiety looking at a high beat balance. Well, it looks, because I don't actually work on them that often. I'm used to 21.6. So, but you look at 18,000 BPH and it's just this gorgeous ballet. And they're very, very stable, which means that they achieve, if they're in good condition, you can achieve 0.0 beat error. And they hold their power beautifully, and they're such great timekeepers. My 6200s are among my very, very best timekeepers, mechanical timekeepers. They're beautifully made and beautifully designed, and elegant and graceful. I just love them. Plus, all the hash marks are painted orange, which I like.
Fredo 1070. That lume, you can tell that it was a desk diver, never touched saltwater or air, but a gorgeous watch at barn find. I like that, desk diver.
That's what they call it.
I had no idea, never heard the term before.
Yep, so you're wearing your sport. Well, look, I'm wearing what is now effectively a desk diver. Mm-hmm. I mean, barring some kind of very strange set of circumstances, this isn't going to be underwater ever again. But that Daini loom, that green, grainy Daini loom, for some reason, it still glows. It's not like it's going to glow all night long, but it glows strongly regardless of the water damage. I have two 62 MASs. One of them had some pretty serious water damage. It lived its life in India, but it was a one-owner watch, and it was not abused. Its working life was in a humid, hot environment, and the loom was pretty whacked, but it will still glow. It's spotty. There's something about that green Daini loom. I don't know what it is, and it's true of every iteration I've ever seen it used on. And it was a Daini only thing as far as I can see. Oh, but though in that servicing video, that watch did have a couple warning signs that it had been put in salt water and then not cleaned. It didn't have a lot of hours, but there was enough rust that got inside that started, because stainless steel will rust, and between the rotating ring and the case, around the movement ring spring, around the rotating ring spring, a couple places it started rusting, and that's really deadly. It's really dangerous, because the clearances on a 62 MAS rotating ring, they're tightly made, and the 62 MAS rotating rings are lightly built. Rust expands because you've got oxygen being added in, and so it has more volume, and very slowly, and it can crack a ring open. I've seen it happen, and this watch wasn't far away from that process starting. So you got to be careful. So you're out there with anybody out there getting their watch in salt water. Seiko instructions specifically say you're supposed to rinse it in a glass of fresh water, ideally distilled. And you leave it there, I believe, overnight to make sure you get all the salt out of it. Pardon me. I'm from here, so naturally I'm allergic to everything in here, in this state. But so, don't worry, I'll make it.
You will.
I will.
Okay, another different video for ET Seiko 7A487,000.
Oh, okay. Wow. So this is 7A487,000 is the that's the 7A moon phase.
Oh, okay. Eli Smith 7374. I got one of these at an estate sale, but I can't get the case back off.
Well,
Is that the one that you have Big Bertha for?
yeah, it depends. Well, first question is, what is your what kind of tools are you using? Do you have a Bergeon style 3-jaw gripper? That's the best one to use. And you can get knockoff versions of them, and they're not terribly expensive. And if you're fooling around with watches, they're really good to have. Super good thing to do though is get protective film. If you call up like Jules Burrell or something, and they sell these rolls of this plastic wrap protective film stuff.
I thought you could only buy from them if you're a business.
Oh, I don't think that's true. I think if you call the ladies at the front desk, they'll let you do it. I mean, I never had to send them any paperwork. I mean, I have, a businessy kind of name, but I never had to prove myself. Like, they've never asked me for...
They're always very nice on the phone.
The ladies at the front desk are very nice. Anyway, so what you do, though, is you wrap the watch head with one of those protective things before you start doing anything, because then that helps you protect the case back. And make sure that if you're doing that, that you find that when you're trying to turn, you're really, really getting your hand, it's cupped in there, you're getting in there, and so you can hold it as firmly as possible and get it to twist without this thing skipping and slipping, which will damage your case back.
Let's restore a $28 watch.
Indeed, let's.
Matt Cameron 9349. There is something deeply satisfying watching a well-used and once-loved watch be given a second chance at life through skill and patience without being dissuaded by its material value. In our throwaway society, relaxing to something like this is is like a little bit of heaven. Thank you, Spencer.
Oh, well, thank you for watching. I sincerely appreciate that. I love maintenance. I love maintenance and cleaning. I literally love maintenance, keeping things, the way they ought to be. And so it's very satisfying to get these machines, back to the point that they can function as they're designed. And I've never really thought about the money aspect of it, at all. That probably sounds really weird, but every watch to me is watch. I only get nervous about the value of a watch when there's something about it that would be difficult or expensive to repair if something went wrong. Other than that, to me, all watches, they kind of exist at the same level depending on their design and how they were made and how they were constructed. That watch was a perfectly fine watch. It was the jeweled movement. It had a couple curious things, like you can adjust the height of the height of the balance cock, or the balance bridge. Well, it's not a bridge, but it's the balance cock with these little metal shims that are in there. It's sort of a primitive solution, but it works. It works, and that watch gave me great numbers. The dollar signs on a watch, I mean, is a Rolex 000, or let's say a Rolex sub, is a Rolex sub worth $10,000 versus an Omega vintage Omega worth $1,000. But technologically, I mean, Omega stuff is really nice. So where's the value?
Snobbery.
It's snobbery. And to me, their watches are watches. And I'm not downgrading anything. I'm saying all watches are watches.
Okay. Yesterday's watch review today, the Seiko 6105 8000. From Josh N5625. Great video. I think the 6105 8000 is possibly Seiko's best dive watch design ever.
I mean, obviously we're both wearing them.
It wasn't on purpose.
It wasn't on purpose. The design of them, the clean, the smooth, the double ellipse of the cases, and then against you've got the straight interior of the lugs, and then the spun slope, which is delineated. It's sort of made oblong, and you can't. there are all these intersecting geometric shapes that I can draw in, like, basically, like, imagine the original specs of, you're going to grind it off to this thing, and then you're going to grind it off like so and so, and I can see the billet as it was, being made, and see all the different geometric lines. And there's such perfect balance to this watch design. If the Redune Repop had a decent dial and handset, it would be a watch on everybody's wrist. School kids would get one for when they were getting ready to leave high school. Everybody would get one.
Everybody.
Yep.
They get their diploma and a watch.
And their 6105 8000.
Let's look at some new old watches. Seiko 6139 6000 5 True Pogue. How old's that video?
It's not that old, actually. That's not that old. In fact, that was when we bought Dave Sorkin's watches.
Oh, okay. Michael Williams. Hi, I was hoping for clarification on something. I noticed something interesting the other day. I had assumed that the Pogue style watches and the speed timer watches from the same era all had the same winding crown. I was looking at my own watch, which is a Seiko 6139 8000 speed timer, and it seemed as if the crown on my watch is marginally smaller than the ones on the Pogue style models. From looking at pictures on the internet, it would appear that the watches without external bezels that have a cushion-shaped case have marginally smaller crowns compared to the ones with the Pogue-style case. Would you say this is true or just an optical illusion?
Not an optical illusion. That's 100% true. That's it. They look externally almost exactly the same. I had to mic this up. There was a customer, he had a question. I had redone his watch, and he had a question about the crown, and it was one of those, if it was one of the big ones or one of the little ones. And so I had to actually go and I measured up, the different crowns, and they're different. It's only a fraction, a couple hits of a millimeter, but you can see it. And the smaller one is definitely, they would be used as a service crown. You would see them sometimes, but you can definitely see it. And there's nothing to say, by the way, that Seiko themselves didn't ever send out those watches with those crowns. Seiko has a known history of using up parts. If they have a bunch of parts and they can use them up, they'll do it. And if you want, I can rattle off some examples. I think the best is 6139 6007, which was sort of a chum bucket model where made for the Mexican market for only like 3 months or something. And they were a mix of different features and that Seiko did to use up these extra parts, and then that was the end of it. I wouldn't be surprised to find that one of these sort of short-lived micro sub-variants used that smaller crown. It's possible.
Now we're going into Greenbean land.
Okay, Greenbean land. So if you don't want to talk about MGBs, which is fine, and I perfectly understand that, you're done. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. If you want to think about Greenbean stuff, that's what's happening now.
Okay.
Now we're in Greenbean land.
From Bruce Barlow, the oil cooler must be an American thing as I can't see them being fitted to MGs down under. Have you filled the SU Carbs oil pots? They need a little bit of light oil.
Here's what he's talking about. Here are my 2 carburetors. You have these pistons right here. As you increase the vacuum, these get drawn up. They're hydraulically dampened with this diddly. That's what he's talking about.
Once you adjust the tappers, is that the right? Did I say
tap it?
Tap it,
yeah.
And fit the air cleaners and fit the bonnet. This will leave a nice exhaust sound. Great to see the old girl on the road and the family so excited about it. You will be able to join the neighborhood funky car club.
It's wild. Dude down the way, a couple has moved in with their daughter and their grandchildren. And he came wandering over. He said, "Hey, I used to have a TR250. So it's like another old dude like me, beard and everything. And he doesn't have, he was busy testing out a skateboard that he made. And so that's the age, where my generation, we used to be young and we're not anymore. But anyway,
I love you.
I love you too. Yeah, no, thank you on the MG. I do have oil in those, in the dash pots. I'm not sure how light it is. And I'm not real sure. I guess I could probably use really long Q-tips and get that oil out of there. When you say light, you mean like light, like 40 weight? So, I mean, not like really thin, like oil or something. I filmed this, but actually just yesterday, I made a real good stab at getting the carburetors balanced. Like, I didn't think I was going to be able to pull that off. Like, I was just one of those giant things I didn't think I was going to be able to do. And I did it. And I'll have that in a Greenbean video. And you'll be able to see it for yourself. She's still running rough. And the way to sort of tell if, she's running rich or lean is kind of non-scientific. And I haven't mastered it yet, but she's running much better than she had. Can I just see that question real quick? Oh, I did adjust the valves. That's another thing that I did. I went in. Several were way too tight, and a couple, 3 were really wide open. So it's a little quieter now. It's still kind of tappy EE. But the car, the motor only has about 1,000 miles on a rebuild. So, I mean, it was 41 years ago, granted, but still, it's only 1,000 miles. And so the engine hasn't even been run in yet, really. I tell you, the oil pressure is beautiful. I'm going to have that in the Greenbean video too, because I finally got all the dash instruments are hooked up, linked up, and correct. She holds a solid, oh gosh, she's holding beautifully at 65 pounds. It just really nice, just rock solid at hot or cold, no problem whatsoever. I'm not getting any leaks on the cooling system. I have some minor stuff, like I just tightened up the back brakes. I need to change out the gaskets in the fuel pump because I used old ones because I was going to push ahead. I need to finish ordering new ones today. Every now and then I'm getting just a little bit of fuel weeping out of those fittings right there, which obviously I don't want. But it's coming along. And the big thing now is that I actually have my safety inspections scheduled. I have my date. They're hard to get. But I have my date. It's June 19th. And so June 19th, and I've made a lot of progress. So when that Greenbean video comes out, I'll be there with bated breath.
This next one I thought was cute. Roscoe Zippo 1974. At last, Greenbean has matured into runnier bean. Well done, Spencer. Well done.
Yep, that's hortological humor.
I know.
Into runner bean. Yeah, man, she runs. I actually got her on the road and everything. In the intervening time, I've gotten her running, and when she was idling, and because she's up on blocks and jack stands, and I ran the transmission through all 4 gears. She rolls through all 4 gears. The back end sounds kind of whiny, but I don't have the tool to drain. It's got that big square plug thing. I need to get that tool so I can drain that fluid. I don't know what the back end looks like on this, but I ran it through all 4 gears and reverse. Everything works. Nothing was grinding. The clutch appears to be the way it's supposed to be. She's running.
One more.
One more question. Okay, one more Greenbean question.
Mr. Bun 9L3.
Mr. Bun.
It probably is the valve clearances causing the noise. The oil for the rockers comes up from the block and through the cylinder head at the back. It enters the hollow rocker shaft via the back pedestal. There's radial drilling out to each rocker arm for the bearings and passages inside each rocker arm to provide oil to the push rod and valve ends of the arms. The oil going up there is slow metered via a slit in the cam journal that aligns with the feed briefly on each cam rotation. So it's not meant to be the quantity of oil you'd see on a modern overhead cam setup with pressure lubricated valve train. There should be some oil residue on top of the head by the time you remove the cover to adjust the clearances though.
Yep, absolutely. And that's what it looks like. You pull the cover off and you can see it's not deep in oil, but there's oil there. And I've also seen, after running it with the valve cover off, I actually saw oil coming down the outside of the push rods. So it's definitely moving oil around. And what?
Oh, that hawk is busy flying around. A crow is hot on its ass yelling at it. Oh, they flew away.
Oh, really? Huh. Yeah, so we got a hawk around here, and the hawk is always getting mobbed. So I guess, that's still occurring.
Yes.
Let me look at that question again. Sorry.
It's okay.
Then I have to start getting back and editing out all the coughing. Sorry about that. Yeah, with the oil pressure that I've got, I'm confident that it's correct. The only question I have about my valve clearance job that I did is like how tight it's supposed to be. This one was from you're supposed to do them from 0.014 to 0.016 or 0.012 to 0.014. Something like that. I think it's 0.15 is where it's supposed to be. Is it, when you're tightening that down, is it supposed to be like, yeah, you can fit the what's the feeler gauge? You can fit the feeler gauge in like smoothly like this, or does it have to be like really try to push it in? Because I went kind of on the looser side. I don't know. Do I need to tighten it down some? So that's definitely a question. I don't know. I guess that's it. Mm-hmm. So I have this, and I have, a Greenbean video, it's kind of directionless. It's more of a series of here's where we're at and here's where we're checking up. But at the end, you got some nice running sounds. So maybe I'll put that together.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for watching. Again, we sincerely appreciate it. And that's about it. Was that Sebastian?
No, I think it was Malachi.
Oh, okay. Well, folks, have a great weekend. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.